think of women in Oklahoma or women in Oklahoma City, what comes to mind? Some people might think of cowboys and horses, the country, maybe even a place where women take a back seat, where women are more reserved. Don't say that to these women, though, because they are some of the baddest women out there. They're leaders and business owners, competitors and innovators, and they definitely have a voice. Typically, women over 40 are, maybe portrayed in a way that I don't necessarily agree with or overlooked entirely. They're not marketed to as much as younger women. They're not represented as much as younger women. And I feel like they have so much to offer. And so, if you can control your own narrative, if you can control, the public representation of your demographic, of who you are, it really puts the power back in your hands. It changes how you're received as women and your reputation and how you show up. And so the She Is Project basically creates that platform for women over 40.
Well, as women, when we get married and our lives change a lot because we become a wife and then we become a mother and we become career women. And then your children leave the home and you have to readjust your mentality. And I think it's just the perseverance of knowing that change is going to happen and knowing that being strong women, I don't care who the woman is, they are strong because we're women. Basketball was a passion in our family. My dad was a college basketball player, really good player, and it was just something that we did in our family. And it took hold at 7th grade, and I'm still doing it at some level, which is the officiating. But played all through college, and then graduated, started coaching basketball, and then shortly into coaching, I decided that officiating was where my passion was.
Back when I moved to Oklahoma City, I only knew of one female tattoo artist here in the city at that point in time, and her name was Samantha. And at the time too, I just thought she was badass, because she just was fearless and she was bold and she was doing her own thing and she was holding her own amongst all the guys. And, it's come full circle because now she works for me and she works in my shop. And I've told her this before. I was like, back when I met you, I looked up to you because you just were pursuing your dream. You were holding in there. You were really, you were able to match, the energy that these boys were putting out there and just really give them a run for their money. One of the things I really love about Oklahoma City is just how far we've come over the years, and being here since 2002 and watching the progression and the city grow has really been amazing to watch. Like when I moved here, Bricktown was still warehouses and rundown, and now it's a thriving downtown area, and it is just night and day from what it used to be. So I'm just really glad that I was able to get here on the ground floor of the boom of Oklahoma City just exploding. So it's been really awesome.
It's humbling to be 5th generation. My family made the trek here during the land run, the early land run, and we live currently about 2 miles from where they originally settled in Mustang, or South Mustang, and in Oklahoma City limits. And you think, wow, that's a cool tradition and a legacy to carry on. And I remember I was giving a talk to a group of people a while back, and I started off with the 5th generation, and people were raising their hands. I'm 5th generation. I'm 4th generation. So it's something I don't take lightly. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Love Oklahoma City. It's been fun to watch it grow. But it's also cool that I've got this little piece of it that's all ag, But that's what makes it awesome. You've got all kinds of different things going on in 600 square miles. Pretty rocking. Went to college at Oklahoma State, go Pokes, and was there for 14 years to get a bachelor's. But I had incredible opportunities along the way. I had an opportunity to work for a congressman, so I have congressional experience, and he taught me a lot about economic development, and that started a whole new chapter in my life of nonprofit management. So I play with cows, but I like to build cities, build things, create things. And then one day, got a call to come run the Oklahoma National Stockyards. And that was a game changer for me because it had been around at that point 110 years. I was the first female and probably the youngest one at that time in the history. I was only one of 6 that had ever served in that capacity.
Oklahoma City women excel in their professional fields, from healthcare and education to business and law, showing dedication and commitment to their careers while making impactful contributions.
And as far as the real estate, it just came naturally. I saw a need for young mothers, and I always would say, I'm going to get my real estate license. I'm going to help these young mothers get into homes. I'm going to help change the narrative of home ownership in my community. When I first moved to Oklahoma City, I moved up here as a single mother. I graduated in 1993. I was a mother exactly a year later, 1994. And I left my hometown because I wanted something more for my child. And my mom was already living in Oklahoma City. When I came to Oklahoma City, I had so much support from my mom, my aunts, my grandparents back home, my siblings. And I saw young women that did not have the same type of support that I had. And that just resonated in me.
Well, it's been challenging just because, a lot of the things that I've had to learn how to do are things that men growing up, do with their dads. And so I didn't do those things. So I've kind of had to YouTube a lot of things and ask a lot of questions. And so that part has been challenging. And also there aren't a lot of women to work with in the industry, to get a woman's point of view. And so, that's challenging, but I don't let it stop me. I have something to do, I'm going to go do it. Well, I'm a real estate investor, and I bought my first properties 2 years ago. And basically I bought 4 at once instead of 1, like what is recommended. So that has been a big challenge as well, but I don't let that stop me either. If I can do it with 1, I can do it with 4, and let's go.
So last year at this time, I was doing a project. It was CCTV cameras on an Air Force base. And the crew that I started with, it wasn't going great. So I had to let somebody go. We were over budget and looked like we were going to be out of time. Of course, my husband, he was in New York City and Atlanta doing some other things, and I was on a beach in Florida. Well, it just so happened that after I let go of one person, 2 women called me up and said, hey, I'd really like to get into this business of traveling. And I said, well, how do you feel about ladders? And they both lied to me and said they were fine. I said, how do you feel about getting dirty? Oh, we're good with that. That's what showers are for. And I said, how soon can you be on a plane to Florida? And so I got them there, and we conquered fears of ladders. We learned how to use hammer drills and screw guns and how to not strip out screws. And, we finished that project under budget and under time. And they've stayed with me.
One of the biggest obstacles to my success and across my entire career has probably been, a struggle with self-belief, believing in myself, imposter syndrome, visualizing myself in a career that I never thought growing up I would be qualified for or that I would have access to. And I know from photographing thousands of women at this point and talking to so many women that's something a lot of women struggle with, is just not being able to see themselves in the position that they dream about.
When I was a senior in high school, people used to ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I always said a commercial airline pilot. Of course, back in our day, women were not commercial airline pilots. So it kind of got sidetracked, and healthcare is where I ended up going. And healthcare was great. I loved it. I worked in the operating room for 22 years. It was fantastic, a lot of fun. And then transitioned into administrator. And administrator was good. I'm not going to say it wasn't the greatest. It's a little rough. Then I just found a school and thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And I know I'm 52, but why not? Now's the time to do it. So it became a pilot, and I have loved it ever since. Of course, I like the faster planes, but yeah. So aviation is wonderful. If you've ever thought about doing aviation, I think young women should get involved more into it, and not hold back, because honestly, too many people are told they can't do something, and we can.
The military in general is still very male dominated. So this last promotion, getting to lieutenant colonel, was a pretty big hurdle for me to get as a female. And also being more of a medical provider, I'm not infantry, I'm not. So to be able to get promoted, and possibly even another one, is I think a pretty big feat as a female. But the aviation side is a lot of males, absolutely. Most of our pilots are male. We do have a couple female helicopter pilots, but mostly I work with all males. Even the other people in the clinic where I see them, they're all males. It's just.
So it's very hard for women in the workforce, especially with engineers. And you, in a sense, have to prove that you're worthy of being an engineer in that area. It's very intimidating sometimes, but it's like every morning I wake up, it's like I have to know what I'm doing, who I'm going to be dealing with, so that way I have my mindset of how to interact with different people. So I would just say, for any female that's looking to get out there, just don't get to a point where you're being pushed around and pushed into a corner. You have worth just like any male that's out there, so use that and build your career on being very straightforward, and get out there and do it.
Well, I grew up with a dad and uncles and cousins that were all mechanics and raced cars, raced motorcycles. And so just from a very young age, I was exposed to, mechanical type things, and, out in the shop with my dad, and then met my husband, and he met my dad and got involved with cars and went to tech school. And then he was at a dealership for about 10 years, and we were pregnant with our third baby. And so decided, after lots of promises had not come, to fruition at the dealership, that we needed to do something different. And that different was, we wanted to open our own shop and give that a go. And so me and my big old 9-month-old belly was out in the public trying to find a shop, and finally found one. And we ended up getting a second mortgage on our house because nobody would loan money to 3 young people with really no income at that time. If we had, he quit his job and I was a stay-at-home mom. So we had a baby, and 3 months later we opened AutoWorks. And I tell people we were just so young and naive, and we just didn't know we could fail. Like, failing was not an option. And so we've just made it work. And so since 1997, we have just continued to grow and grow and grow. And we're able to build a new facility that is ours. We bought it and built it from the ground up. And we've been there for 6 years now. So I've just always been involved in the business in one way or another. When the kids were little, kids came to work with us, had a playpen, had all the things that you have to do to, run a business and have kids at the same time. Kids have grown up in the business knowing that money doesn't just come from a card or a checkbook, that they, we have to make money. We have to have customers that come in and pay us. And so I think that, just showing them really good work ethic as business owners, that they can take that forward with them too, and hopefully be good citizens.
I think that one of the hard things can be balancing motherhood with my business. In some ways, being an entrepreneur can be really demanding on your time, but it also affords a certain amount of flexibility, and so I get to kind of choose when I work and which days and times I can dedicate to my children. And so it's worked really well for me as a mother. It's allowed me to build a life that's really tailored to my priorities and the things that are important to me.
And I think you can get so driven sometimes that you kind of lose sight of those priorities. But it takes something happening in your life to make you pause for a moment and step back and think, okay, both of these things are good and I want to have both of these things be successful. What's my plan going to be able to do both of those and do them very, very well? Because I don't want my family to suffer. I don't want my career to suffer, but there's a way to have a healthy balance. And for me, being such a driven person, it's hard for me to stop sometimes. Like, I love to work, and so it's hard for me to turn that off sometimes. But the older I get and the quicker I see my children growing, I'm like, I need to turn this off because my kids are growing up way too fast. And I can't even believe that my baby, my little boy now, is going to be in kindergarten already in the fall. And these first 5 years of his life have flown by as I knew they would. My oldest daughter is going to be leaving for college in a year. And it's just like, how does time fly so quickly? I've got to savor these kids. I've got to savor my family and just know when to turn the business off. And I love that, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, my kids are 100% the priority. And, I have no problem telling people no when it's time to spend time with my kids. And I used to feel guilty about that, and I don't feel guilty anymore because I know I've got my kids at home for a short period of time. And they'll always be business. They'll always be clients and projects. But right now, I want to turn that off a little bit more and be more focused on my kids.
So I've been an optometrist now here in the city since 2012. I had my babies, and then after the second pregnancy, I stayed home for a little bit and then broke into opening a practice. So that's how I got to where I was at as far as practice goes. And then we broke ground on the building, and 2 months later, I found out I was pregnant with the third one. So I would nurse in between patients with the baby when the baby arrived, and then I would have a toddler running around. So my staff, luckily, was really good about being with the baby when I was with the patient, and then we would basically switch. They would go back to the patient care, and then I would have the baby with me back at the back. And so we did that for almost a year. Before all the kids got to go to daycare. But I feel like that is one thing that is a little bit different. Everything's very male dominated in general in healthcare. And so when you are trying to have a family or build that, it is hard to kind of separate the two and not be kind of stuck in the niche of just mom or just eye doctor. So I took my kids to work with me.
OKC women contribute immensely to the city's creative scene, from art to music, fashion, filmmaking. They showcase incredible talent, making the city a hub for vibrant and diverse artistic expression.
Yeah, I wear whatever I want to wear. And I think that women need to support each other in that, and not say, well, she's too old to wear that, or why is she wearing? No. Support each other. But I'm going to wear what I want to wear, and I am going to wear it forever. And I don't know what I'm going to be doing at 70, but I guarantee I'm going to be wearing whatever I want to wear. And that's what we got to do. We got to support each other and not judge or, criticize each other with that. Because that 20-year-old that's wondering why that 40 or 50-year-old is wearing that, they're going to be that age soon. And I guarantee it, they're going to want to wear what they want to wear too. So just, they got to think about that.
Yeah, I didn't do pageants really when I was younger. I just don't think I was confident enough. So I did one pageant when I was 20. We have a large Czech and Slovak population in Oklahoma. So I ran for Oklahoma Czech Slovak Queen in 1998 and got first runner up. But I didn't really start doing more beauty type pageants until I was in my 30s. I had a friend compete in one, and I went to watch her, and that's how I kind of got roped in. So I've been competing for 12, 13 years in that range, and I've held several state titles, Mrs. Oklahoma International, Mrs. Oklahoma United States, and Mrs. Oklahoma Earth, and that was from 2018 to 2020. And then I've held 2 national titles. Because of my Czech heritage, I was Mrs. Czech Republic World for 2 years, 2021 and 2022. And so the Mrs. World pageant is the biggest international beauty pageant for married women. And then now I won Mrs. Royal America, which is part of Kudo Pageants out of Hartford, Connecticut. So it's been fun. Just the best thing is the people that you meet from all over the world. And it gives you motivation to stay in shape. And I'm a dancer, dance background, and so getting on stage still, I treat it kind of like a performance, and I think that's why I enjoy doing it.
I'm not so sure if it's a reputation or if I just imagine it myself, but I love to host parties and gatherings and things like that, and I don't find myself boring, but who finds themselves boring? But I don't try to take myself too seriously, because that's just not fun. And so I enjoy hosting and making things just fun for people, that they can relax and get to know other people. So enjoy spending time with my daughter now that she's not a child. I so enjoy getting to plan little goings outs with my husband. I love going out with my friends. I plan trips with him or with the girlfriends, and just have a great time in your life. I really believe that we don't ever know how long we have here on this earth, and that what you should do is just say yes, okay? When somebody says, we should do this, plan it, do it. Because nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to help you get the experiences of your life that you really deserve to have.
So I was actually 49 when I did my first fitness competition last May, and it was a gift to myself for that knowing I was going to hit the next decade. So the thing that I enjoyed the most about competing was similar to what I enjoy about ballroom dancing. I like bling. I like rhinestones. I like jewelry. I like all those things. And so that's the fun part. Hair, makeup, all that. The thing that I know now is really that I am worth something. I didn't have to do all these things to be worth something. I just am worth something for who I am.
Okay, I was about 35 when I started writing comedy, and I have so many friends in the industry, and the more we talk and are around each other, they're like, you think like somebody who is performing stand-up. And I narrate life. So my son graduated high school, and he went on to acting school at Savannah College of Art and Design. And when he left, I'm like, what am I going to do now? And so it's like I'm creating a whole new identity for myself in this transition period with being an empty nester. And it's like, why don't you do the things that you've always wanted to do? And I never thought of myself as a performer, but the more I learn who I am, the more I realize I am. So it's come really naturally and really fun, and I enjoy it so much. It's an artistic outlet that I never even knew I needed.
We moved to Oklahoma City. The boys were 4 and 6, so now they're 43 and 45, so it's been quite some time. I grew up in an artsy family, and my family, there's an organization in Tulsa at the Tulsa Spotlight Theater. They do a play called The Drunkard every Saturday night. It's still going on. It's the longest running play in the United States. And my mom and dad were both in the play, and I used to go down and sit with them when I was little, and memorized every line of the play. And when I became old enough, then I was allowed to be a part of it, as was my brother and my sister. And pretty soon our entire family was a part of the play. And we had a special night. My maiden name is Lemur, and so we had a special night they called Lemur Night, and they put it in the newspaper, and it was very exciting for us. And well, you know, I thought that maybe I would be a speech and drama teacher, and but my first job, I took a job as a teaching assistant in a class for children with special needs, and this class happened to be students with emotional and behavior disorders. And I found out that I absolutely loved it, and I felt like that this was really my calling. And so I went back to college and finished out a degree in special education, and I decided that middle school was really where I needed to be, because I was afraid that elementary school students might not get my sense of humor. So middle school kids I absolutely love, because you know, you never know what you're going to get when they come in from day to day.
I think that it's always important for women to see other women who are succeeding, especially balancing motherhood, career, you know, the other areas of our life, because it can give you that reassurance. You see somebody else doing it, you believe you can do it. And I think that's like been a huge thing for me, is just the self-worth piece of that, and doing the things anyway, even in the face of like self-talk that says is completely contradictory to what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, so I build new homes for a living, and I am in a very male-dominated industry, and I love it. I love it because I feel like it needs a feminine touch. It's time for homes to evolve around the modern woman and the modern family. Most women are working now if they choose to work, and they need a space for them. You know, they need a space for their kids. They need a way to get away. I love providing small spaces like pocket offices. So it's a little space for somebody to get away without having to take up a whole bedroom. And I would draw plans all the time as a kid, never really thinking that could be an industry that I could be in, or you had to go to architect school and be an architect. I didn't know there was so many different type of jobs within construction and within new home builds or even remodeling, that I thought it was so out of reach. And then as soon as I had a person hire me that was a female, and I was like, please give me this job. Like, I begged. I interviewed so much for a superintendent job and nobody would give it to me. And she was just like, yeah, you got this. And then I had to dominate it. And then I just kept dominating. So I would say, if you like it or think you might like it, try it. Now it's like, let's get to the top. You know, let's be the business owners. Let's create spaces for people that isn't just about the square box, that it's about you're raising your family. You're living your best life there.
To me, I've always believed that education gives everyone a level playing field. It is the only way up and out for many people. And it's why I specifically chose to start a charter school in inner city Oklahoma City. I have 97% poverty in my school. And I've been fortunate to have some really great mentors that reached out to me and have mentored me. And I was taught that you always give back. If you have $1, someone needs a dime. And if you have something that could help someone else, then you've been helped and you pay it forward. So I saw education as being a way to do that. And all of my civic engagement, all the things I've been involved in are helping girls, women, and families. I believe that with the more educated our communities are, the kinder people are, the less homelessness we have, the less incarceration we have, and the better world we have. And so that's kind of my driving force. I love to learn. I've always had a great curiosity, and I hope, and based on what my students have told me, I've passed that curiosity and love of learning down to them.
Because I can't change old thinking. And so the only thing I can do is just, hold my head up high and provide an opportunity for other women in the business as well. There's always going to be those people that tell you you don't know anything, that it's just science that men know construction better than women. And again, it's not my job to change their viewpoint on the world. And it's just my job to make sure that I'm giving opportunity to other women in construction. And my husband started a Construct My Future Camp for Kids to show middle schoolers the trades. And my favorite part about it is seeing the group of girls. And they love welding and they're good at it. And they love running the concrete truck and they're good at it. And just seeing the girls at the young age know that they can run companies. We're going to be okay in the future. So.
And so I think that a lot of times kids can get lost in the sauce because they don't have people that are speaking to them in a real way. You know, everything doesn't have to be so embellished. You can be yourself. I speak a lot about my past decisions that weren't great, but that ultimately propelled me into who I am today. So, you know, there is hope when you are able to give to the kids. What's great about this age is the wisdom that I have in making mistakes in my 20s and knowing that those things are far, far behind me and that, you know, I live a more peaceful life because of it. I watch who I hang around. Plus, I have a kid and he's watching, so that plays a huge role in the decisions I make now. What excites me is that there's more to come, and I don't feel like I'm done yet. I feel like I still have things to do. Am I tired? Yes. But it's worth it, and I don't want to live a life of regret or, you know, saying things that I could have done because I do have a couple of those things, but I always encourage people to try it out. I mean, you can always go back to whatever you were doing. Just try it, you know, because you don't want to regret it later.
I'm a third generation financial speaker and helping women get clarity on their money. I've been in corporate accounting and finance for 25 years. So just helping women understand that when they're scared, knowing that I've been in that same place, that is what's been filling my heart. Instead of spreadsheets, be able to fill these women with confidence that they can understand their money also. Growing up, my financial planner father used to have women come into his office bawling their eyes out because they didn't understand, maybe their spouse or something in life happened. They didn't know how to pay a bill. They didn't know if they had life insurance or debt, or they didn't know anything and they felt lost. So my dad thought it was super important for us as little girls to understand money concepts. So he used to draw on a napkin a triangle and help us understand our money. So in case life something threw a curveball at us, we knew what to do. And thankfully he did, since life threw me so many curveballs. And it's been so helpful for me to be able to rebuild each time life threw it at me. I was able to rebuild my own finances. And I think that's super important to help other women know that they can rebuild too. I think it's super important to understand from another woman, it's not a competition with that other woman, that they're there to support you and hold your hand through it. Because with finance and accounting of numbers, you can never learn everything. You need somebody else in your corner that they have their specialty. They have their specialty. Everyone has their unique gift, their unique kind of assignment here to help each other. So I think it's super important as women that we learn our numbers, we learn our finance, but we also lean into each other, knowing that their gift and their gift and their gift, it all comes together to help us all boost each other.
The women of OKC are often at the forefront of important social, economic, and political changes. They advocate for justice, equality, and progress within their communities.
The veterans and the homeless are near and dear to my heart. I believe that the veterans need more help, and they are just kind of that lost society, and I believe that we should do more for them. I do believe that also on the homeless, some of them just have chosen to be there and some of them haven't chosen to be there, and we really shouldn't judge either one. I love to give out, I make these little Ziploc baggies full of stuff. And I love to give them out to people just as I'm walking down the street. Some of them take it kindly. Some of them are kind of shocked. And some of them are like, oh my God, I lost my toothbrush yesterday. Thank God for, thank you. Someone stole my backpack. Oh, well, here's gloves, here's some snacks, here's toothpaste and toothbrush, a comb, whatever. The little bitty things that we take for granted are things that they need every single day that we just don't even think about. So I love that. I love to just help with food drives, help with if they're feeding them one day, just anything that you can do. I don't think that I'll ever be able to do enough to meet what I think I should do, but I really think that we should help the veterans, help the homeless, just do as much as we can for them. And half the homeless people are veterans anyway, so you're doing two things at once, and I just feel it's just near and dear to my heart. Wisdom is the only thing that has gotten me where I am today, but if I could tell my 20-year-old self anything now, is that just don't give up, keep persevering, and do what you love.
Well, everyone in my family is an educator. So my mama was a first grade school teacher in the same classroom for 30 years. And my mom was a special education teacher for 15 years. And so everyone in my whole tree on both sides of my family are educators. I didn't think I wanted to do that. I wanted to go a different route. I ended up going into PR. Life is crazy. Ended up taking me to higher education where I worked in PR, still in education. Lord blessed me with twins. So I got out of that field, but he blessed me again with another son who actually has some learning difficulties. So I'm back in the education world as a mom. I have learned that there's nothing quite like mothers that will educate for their own, and then in turn they will be advocating for everyone. So I learned more through other parents than I actually have the experts, because I think that once you're on a mission, you become the expert at whatever it is you're fighting for, or you're passionate about, or you want to be involved in, or you want to help with. So at the end of the day, I don't know that it's about education as much as it is about just learning, a lover of learning, and just seeking the truth, and just continuing to be open-minded and ask the right questions, sometimes ask the hard questions. But at the end of the day, I do feel like we say we're just moms. Even me, I had this big resume, and now sometimes people ask me and I'm like, oh, and just a mom. But interesting enough, a lot of powerful people I know still call their moms when they have a bad day, right? So I think that moms, we underestimate the power we really have. Just loving our people, loving them well. And at the end of the day, when you just keep doing the right thing, I think that you're advocating.
I have a PhD in health behavior with a focus on human sexuality from the Kinsey Institute, which is the most world-renowned place for the study of sex, gender, love, reproduction. I've been doing a women's wellness that is very sexuality-focused program for Remerge of Oklahoma County. So I work with women who are in recovery. They're nonviolent drug offenders. It's a diversion program, so instead of going to prison, it's recommended that they go through this program. The average participant is in the program about 17 months. Some are there a little bit longer, but they're all moms, and the program helps them to develop skills, to be able to navigate life, and to get their children back if they've been removed from their custody. So I teach that every week and develop that. I think it's about 8.5 years ago now, and have consistently taught that for them. So I'm sorry I get emotional. It's a passion project. So many of them have sexual trauma as part of their history, and that's part of how they got into addiction as a coping mechanism. They all want better for their own children. They want their lives to be different. They don't want them to have the trauma and addiction that they've had and struggled with. And so, one, you're affirming who they are, where they are in life. I often say that I just sort of meet them where they at, where they are at in life and who they are in that moment, and I just get to love on them, but teach them skills that they can use in their adult relationships, and that they can really use in talking to their children and in hopes that their lives are drastically different from their own.
The women of OKC are known for their resilience, facing challenges with strength and perseverance. They are a testament to the spirit of overcoming obstacles with grace.
Because looking at me, you would think nothing's wrong. Like, unless I had my head shaved or unless you were able to see the scar. But like, I still struggle day to day, but it's just getting up and going. I work a full-time job, you know, I'm a grandma now. Like, I have beautiful kids, and just getting up and staying positive, really. People are like, oh, you know, well, you don't have an option to be strong, or well, you do. I could stay in bed all day. You know, I could let this disease get me down, but it's like I have a lot of life left to go. I just think, like, I've done a lot of maturing. I've done a lot of healing from my past. Like, I'm trying to be the adult that my kids needed. You know, I'm trying to be the adult that my grandson's gonna need. Like, I've gone through a lot of trauma and a lot of problems with my family, but it's like forgiveness is like a really big key. Like, you have to forgive people to move on, because I don't want people to have that power over me anymore. So probably just keep it going. That's my biggest thing.
And that the boxing gloves are kind of twofold. My grandfather was a boxer, and so that's always been something I loved. And then who knew that that would have to come so front and center with my life, with everything that has happened. My son and my husband both were diagnosed with cancer about the same time. They both started chemo the same time, and thankfully my son got to ring the bell, and you can't say cancer free yet because it hasn't been long enough, but his scans and everything have been clear. So in my heart, he's cancer free. And unfortunately, my husband lost his battle 3 years ago, and it's just been a struggle every day trying to get used to a new life. And then recently my mom, her health deteriorated, and we lost her 2 months ago. So I've definitely had to make sure that I keep going and I keep fighting and I don't give up, because on those days that I really want to, that it's just too much, I have to remember that my mom didn't raise me that way and I can't give up. And so those boxing gloves just help me remember I come from a fighter, and I'm going to continue to be a fighter.
When I moved back to Oklahoma in 2016, and 6 or 7 months later, I was told I had end-stage liver disease. And so I was in shock because I had high liver enzymes, but no one could tell me why. And it was a fatty liver, and it was not a big deal. And it really is a big deal. And we just don't know enough, I didn't know enough about it. And it was a couple months later, I thought I could go back to work, went to the transplant center to get checked out to make sure that, everything was going okay, and it was. And a couple of months after that, I was diagnosed with inoperable liver cancer. First reaction was to go to, I don't have the money, I don't have this, I don't. And, turning it around was I had to change my don't. I had to change it and understand my diagnosis to change my outlook. Really, it's been music, it's been people, it's been that I actually found someone and got married in the last 5 years. So everything that I thought would never happen, happened. And everything is just, they always say this, after the storm comes a rainbow. I was like, whatever. And now I'm like, okay, it's true.
Well, it was my 16th birthday, so of course we were all going out, having fun, going to eat pizza. And on our way back, on our way home, we were only about 2 blocks away from the house. And we were struck by a train, and it pushed us 2.5 miles down the track before it stopped. And there was 8 of us, and only 2 survived. I became very strong, very independent. I was already independent because I took care of my mom that was handicapped. It just made me even more strong. I didn't put up with a lot of crap from a lot of people. I had to deal with kids, but then also adults, especially after my mom died. shortly after that. That's where I get my stubbornness and my hard-headedness and my independence.
It's easy to look at something negative. That's the easy part. The easy part is to dwell on negative. And I think in order to get out of the darkness, you need something to look forward to. And these things might be things to people, to other people looking outside. But it gives you hope. It gives you inspiration to really look forward to all of the good things in life, that not everything is bad. CASA is pretty much, I'll just be a court-appointed representative for any abused child that's kind of in the system or been neglected in foster care, that kind of thing. I was an abused child myself, and I didn't really have someone to speak for me, and I know how hard that is. So I just wanted to be sure, like moving forward, that someone in their court really looked at that as a child in need, and not to make them think growing up that was normal. I want to see my adult children thrive and hope that I could be an inspiration to them. I'm looking forward to seeing how they progress with their own life, and as well as mine, whether it be a career, outside of my career, just sitting at a park and hearing the birds chirp. I can see and feel that differently now, and I'm excited to just see all of the, what nature has to offer. I can actually hear the sounds, and I look at things differently now.
So I've been a nurse since 2016. I worked in the hospital field for quite a while. Never thought that I would want to stop that. COVID hit, changed the whole healthcare industry, and everybody that worked in healthcare had a culture shock, really. And you couldn't be that personable with people in the hospital setting. So in my little small town, there was a little nursing home that people couldn't see their families that they loved and their familiar faces. So I decided to step away from the hospital scene and work in a memory care unit and take care of those people. And they evacuated to Kansas City for a couple months because of asbestos exposure. So I traveled to take care of them, so they would still have that familiar face. But while I was there, my husband, who had stage 4 cancer, called me and told me I needed to come home. And whenever I came home, the hospice company that came in and took care of him kept asking me, "Hey, you want a job? Hey, we've got a director position. Hey, you want to come?" And I'm like, "No, what nurse wants to go into hospice?" It's not something that a nurse says, "Hey, I want to be a hospice nurse." It's a calling. And so after I saw the care that they provided to him, I was like, I'll try it. I want to try it out. After my husband passed on our hospice, my grandpa came on and my father-in-law. So I lost all three of them in a very, very short time. And it was hard to work around death every single day. But I started realizing that I could use that pain to help others going through the same thing. So I built my career in my little small town and decided I wanted to grow bigger. I wanted to impact more lives than just my little small town. And so I started working for Bristol Hospice and moved to Oklahoma City. I was there for about a month as their director of patient care services, and my boss, that was the executive director, got a promotion, and I stepped into her role within a month of being there. And I lead an amazing team that is changing the bad part of hospice. People think death and dying, but it's really not. It's comfort, it's quality of life. So I love that I get to touch so many lives with that, and that my nurses are making that impact on others too.
Initially, I wasn't a girl's girl. I didn't trust women because I have a tumultuous relationship with my mother. She was 15 when I was born, and I was raised by my grandmother. But eventually, I found my way to Edmond, and I went to church at Crossings Community, where they have a Celebrate Recovery program, and I was able to work through some of those issues, and I found not one mother, but like 25 through their program. So it renewed my faith in women and sisterhood, and I know I've got a support group, and I can grab a hold of any of them, and they're right there praying for me and helping me through the next challenge in life. And I try to pay that forward. One of the things that I realized in 13 years of recovery is that my whole life I was walking into rooms where I was trying to figure out what the emotional thermometer was. And if I had to walk into a room and figure out what the emotional thermostat was reading, then I sought to control that thermostat by fixing everything or people pleasing or making others happy so that emotional thermostat would change. So therefore I could feel safe or I could feel happy instead of carrying my happiness with me everywhere I went. And so I became dependent on them being happy, thinking if they could be happy, then I could be happy. And it doesn't work that way. Interdependency would be when you can be happy and the other person can be happy. And you can be happy at the same time or not, but still not feel like you have to control the other person's happiness or be responsible for the happiness that the other person does or may not have. And nor could you ever even know if they're happy or not. It's just too much for one person to save the world, and it's not our job.
I feel honored that, all of these women trusted me enough to, sit in front of my camera and share their stories with me and be photographed and be so vulnerable and really let me into their lives. And I'm incredibly proud of all of the things they've accomplished and how they put themselves out there and they stepped forward and they tried something new and exciting and different. And I'm just looking forward to following all of their stories and being along with them on this journey and all of the new women that I'll continue to meet in Oklahoma City as well.